Well, I think there's an ideal gift that we give to God and to those around us, which is to be content with as they are, or as they already give to you. So I don't constantly pray to God for more things, more good events, different outcomes to what is. My response to his kindness is not to be wanting more, but to be satisfied with the kindness that he gives. Somehow I feel this is the ideal to be giving to him, rather than constantly asking for more, asking for something else. In other words, I don't want to put that on him. My gift to him is not to be a needy person, a cost. If I'm confronted with a need that really I do have, then it's my duty to say to him, because he loves us and wants to bless us, and would be unhappy not to know, because he knows all things anyway, but I want to recognize my dependence on, I certainly want to recognize my dependence on him, but I don't want to burden him with, or to show ingratitude by forever wanting more. And I think we do that ideally with those around us too, that we don't burden them with, I want you to do so and so. I bless you by delighting in who you are. And, for instance, our kids are difficult in some ways, but I don't want to put on them to change. If there are ways that they're in that are costly to themselves or to others, then of course I want them to change for their benefit. But I don't put it on them to do so. Does that mean I don't even point out that what these points are? I think so. I'd rather they just came to them naturally, not something I'm requiring of them. In that sense, my love is unconditional, you see. Something in me just wants to love them, wants them to have the benefit of love and acceptance as they are. But I do have a hope in me that they flourish, and they will be doing some things that are not helping them to flourish, destructive to themselves, things that are destructive to others that are also destructive to themselves. And I'd rather these things were not done, of course. And there are other points that I'd rather they did, because if they did do certain things, they would be a benefit to others and to themselves and/or. but I don't want to put it on them. I'm not sure if I can put this quite right, but what we do know is the overall principle, which is I want you to flourish, be in fullness of happiness and blessedness and joy. And we want that for our God too. Our gratitude to Him powers that desire, doesn't it? And with those around us, they may not be of the present condition that is a blessing to us. So you could say our love of them is not necessarily fueled by some gratitude for such, because it doesn't. But we choose to delight in our children. Because that in itself is a help and a blessing to them. We don't want to encourage, of course, those things that are harmful to them and to those around them. So we don't. But we don't keep pointing out such faults in case it discourages them. And the last thing we want is them to be discouraged. But rather to be encouraged in all efforts to bring themselves and those around them into perfect blessedness. I think that sums up. I had a dream where I'd asked a couple who were already very helpful to me if they would add and do something extra to what they were already doing. And I felt mortified in the dream that I'd made this mistake because I wanted them to flourish in my gratitude, not in my hope that they would meet some further benefit as I understood it. I so didn't want to have them not realize my appreciation of all that they do, and that somehow wanting them to do something else would have marred that. Strange dream, but very intense. I'd made a mistake in my mind. I'd asked them to do something further to what they were doing already, and somehow that damaged their understanding of my gratitude of them in their eyes, or it could do. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. I want to be appreciative of your care as it is, not wanting more of you, but responding to what you do, what you are, what you mean to me already. For your understanding and awareness of that gratitude will be the greatest blessing to you. And to your willingness to, and ability somehow, to go forward in life yourself too. So we give this to those around us. We appreciate them. We appreciate them. We encourage and reward and value all that they do good already, all that they mean to us. We want them to be utterly secure in our friendship. Of our friendship. Of their rightness with us. That seems a bit ingenuine somehow, because they may not be right in some ways. And really there's a great need that those around us change in some way. And we don't know how to encourage this and help it and bring it about without discouraging them. That they feel not appreciated. Because we want more from them. I'm in a slight fix still. I haven't quite solved it. I know what I want. I want to be as encouraging as is a blessing. But not so encouraging that those that need to make change don't make change and are not looking for the changes that will be a blessing. But that would be to limit their horizon of perfectness. Would slow them down, would handicap them on achieving all blessedness. Complicated, isn't it? Let me pause. Let me state afresh. Take it like this for a moment. I'm so pleased to see you. Oh, it's just lovely to see you. To be with you is beautiful. At the same time, I'm aware of certain changes that would be a great blessing to you and those around you. And even to me. I don't want you to be oblivious to such, but I don't want to discourage you by pointing out what these are, and that until they're addressed, you're suffering the lack of such blessedness of doing so. So I might want to tell my daughter, look love, if you're quiet, people will think you're hostile. You need to be less quiet. Communicate. Keep up the patter of conversation. Bring good words into the company, into the relationship, that you build people up around you rather than leave them in doubt by being quiet. Silence is a menace to us very often, you know. Be cautious of silence. So I'd like to say that to her, wouldn't I? Because I love her. And I want to rescue her from a way of living that is costly to her. I want her to be filled with love from me and not be discouraged by my indication to her would be a blessing and a good idea to do. I would like her, of course, ideally then to come to this conclusion herself, not have me tell her. It's very important that she knows how to walk in blessedness. But I mustn't do it in such a way that it's going to discourage her. How can I let her know and yet not discourage her? That's what I need to understand, don't I, Lord? Would it discourage me, Father, if you told me? Oh no, because I'm seeking to put it right. That's interesting. I suppose the ideal is that we're all seeking blessedness, to be a blessing to others and to ourselves. That's the ideal, for if we're not seeking, how will we attain and arrive? We'll miss opportunities that would be a blessing to us and others. So, it's not that I should be instructing my little girl on what she's doing wrong and how to put it right, but to constantly be giving her clues, to constantly arrange clues in her life as to the way forward without discouraging her. I don't want her to feel that her lack of achievement so far in certain fields in any way stops my love and care of her and appreciation and joy in her. Gosh, I'm not sure how to do it. I want her to have sufficient desire to improve and seek out all that's good and a blessing, without the failure to have such yet being a discouragement. So in suggesting the best changes, I have to do it in a way that satisfies a desire she has already to be a blessing. Without her having a discouragement of not being that blessing yet, or not having been quite so in the past, up to such a blessing. It's tricky, isn't it? I think I have strongly my understanding of relationship between me and Mum, that I'm clear in my heart Mum loves me and she's trying to be helpful in all different ways. I'm clear in my heart that I'm ever her joy and ever acceptable in her company. I do not reject, therefore, those around me who are goodness, it's hard, isn't it? Because those around me that are causing me grief, it's not a good idea to have them too close. But if I keep them afar off, I can't influence them for good and bless them. Guide me, Father, I'm confused. I don't seem to hit on the right answer, Lord. I think I give it a rest for a moment. Thank you, Dad. Look, if a person's predisposed to hate you, I mean, I can remember suggesting to my wife that she take college lodgers as a way of helping to supplement her income for the mortgage. And she took an incredible offence at my interfering in her financial and private life. And, you know, it's nothing to do with me. Well, that's what it amounted to, her response, as far as I could see. And, of course, I recoiled fast. I mean, I thought, oh dear, I seem to have blundered here. Not my intention to blunder, of course. Well, obviously, to have further pressed such a point would have been futile, wouldn't it? She's better off with space from me than me do that. So you can't always bless as you see it. Those around you, they don't receive what you're doing as a blessing. It just inflames the situation and the war goes on, you know. If you have a hostile, you know, if you have an enemy, it's very hard to know how to bridge the gap. The gap's necessary between you so that you don't murder each other, or them murder you anyway. You no desire to murder them, perhaps, hopefully. But the gap doesn't leave opportunity somehow to bless where you could still bless. And of course there's always the pragmatic thing that, you know, if I really bless my enemy and he flourishes, will he be more able to wipe me out? Doesn't sound like a good policy, does it? You know, if you take the Marshall Plan, it's nothing to do with my name as far as I know, except possibly its origin. The Marshall Plan after the Second World War, Stalin refused to accept any Marshall aid from the West for fairly obvious reasons. He didn't want to be in their hands, as he saw them as a potential future enemy, and the Cold War was that, of course. Could have accepted the aid, of course, and become integral part of the Western economic world, but that would have meant changing the culture of his society, and of course hated capitalism and would have lost communism. In other words, he could see the risk of accepting this Marshall aid and refused it. And in a sense we can understand why, can't we, from that point of view, of losing his independence of the West. And of course you can be offering what you think from your culture and perspective is a blessing to, and it's not from their point of view. Similarly with individual relationships, I'm offering what I think would be helpful advice and they're seeing it as interference and destructive and cramping their freedom of expression, and, you know, get out of my life is their response. Well, I suppose one of the things at least that occurs to me is you just have to be very wide awake, especially when you're dealing with an enemy, because how will they misinterpret this if they're predisposed to misinterpret it? Will it actually, this kindness, make things worse and get an igniting outright explosive response instead of an appreciation, you see. I mean, the rule of cuff is really that each party, each person needs to be at a safe distance from each other person. When you love someone and they love you, that distance can be zero. I mean, you're in contact, you're in embrace. And when you're really hostile, well, that distance probably usefully is something like a mountain range or an ocean or something that stops a lot of communication between you. In ancient times, well, there's still things like the silk trade, trade going on, and some transport with great difficulty guaranteed a separateness between cultures and countries in large measure. To really be a trouble to each other, they had to put an army together and get it on the road to attack the enemy, and that was very costly, and therefore the barrier is fairly effective, isn't it, between nations. In the modern world, that's not so, of course. I can invade your territory in certainly less than 4 minutes, and possibly with modern technology instantly. And this means if we're not in a harmony, we're in danger of war at any moment. I don't want to frighten us to death, but the technology has changed the stability of the situation, hasn't it? It may be, as we've argued with atomic weapons, it may have its own source of stability, namely that the response back can be equally instant, and so you're rather cautious of doing it. But the Cold War then has developed into a cyber war, which hopefully never ignites into physical destruction of humanity, but you're not sure what the stability of it rests on, which was the problem with nuclear weapons, wasn't it? You're not sure how stable this Cold War situation was, and it was anything but cold. Even the lack of use of the nuclear weapons, given their existence, we had extremely hot wars, usually on other people's territory, like Cambodia, Vietnam, and, well, you name it. In the short run, the priority for us has to be stability. I don't want this relationship between you and me to explode, and therefore the safe distance is whatever safe distance can be achieved is the immediate priority, accepting I'm extremely clear on something I can do that will make things better between us straight away. The Western view has been perhaps trade helps between countries in that they get used to each other and adapt to each other. But as with the Stalin situation after the Second World War, you can be in a situation where that's going to be resisted strongly. In which case, well, it is. To take that as given, I suppose. Look, there are no panaceas in a world of good and evil. And we're in a world of good and evil because it's instructive and teaching us, training us for the kingdom of heaven. I don't really think we're here to remove the evil from the world. Although our efforts to do so may be very instructive into coming to understand the nature of good and evil. And it looks like most of the population will continue to battle to remove the evil, with some success, but perhaps limited. If my thesis is for the existence of the universe of uncertainty and of good and evil is valid, and it may not be, of course. I'm in uncertainty in supporting this, aren't I? I'm not 100% clear this is the problem. In fact, I even argue it the other way around, that it's a great benefit, because our benefit is as regards life eternal, not in this kingdom, but in the kingdom of heaven. And in that regard, this world is doing very well, just as it is. It's a bit of a nightmare at times while you're in it, to say the least. But if it is really producing what I understand God to be doing in uncertainty, I think it's me that's facing the uncertainty, of course, not God. Well, I assume that's the case. Thank you, Dad.